Hello and welcome to Castar Reviews. Today we're taking a look at a Sonic game that is very unique stylistically. The main reason that Sonic CD looks so wildly different for a game that was developed at the same time as Sonic 2 was that Sonic CD didn't use the Genesis on its own. The Sega CD, or Mega CD in Japan and Europe, was a CD add-on that attached to your Sega Genesis. The Sega CD gave the Genesis greater graphical power that allowed for games to look and sound better. It also paved the way for weird FMV games like Night Trap, but that's not what we're here to talk about. In that same vein, Sonic CD was able to have actual animated cutscenes, and those cutscenes were produced by Toei Animation of all studios. The cutscenes you're watching right now are not the originals though, as the animations were replaced once the mobile port of the game was finished. Much like the first two games, the mobile version of Sonic CD is the best version since it supports a 16:9 aspect ratio and has an improved save feature from the original. But unlike the last two games, the mobile port of Sonic CD is on consoles, so you can play it on your big TV. The Sega CD didn't really do all that well financially, since the starting price for one was $300, which is about $550 in today's currency. That's fucking outrageous. But still, Sonic CD wound up being the best-selling game for that add-on. Thankfully, one only needs to spend about $5 to experience one of the best games the Sega CD has to offer. Without further ado, here's a look at Sonic CD. With the help of cutscenes, Sonic CD is a bit more story-focused. The plot starts off with Sonic running around an area called Never Lake and seeing a planet called Little Planet chained to the Earth. Of course, this is Eggman's doing, and he's trying to drain Little Planet of its resources and convert it into a fortress. While Sonic is exploring Little Planet, he runs into a pink hedgehog named Amy Rose, making her first appearance in the series. In the second zone of the game, Amy gets kidnapped by Metal Sonic, a mechanized version of our hero, and now Sonic has a new mission. After following Metal Sonic to Stardust Speedway, you beat him in a race and rescue Amy. I find this cutscene to be really funny because I feel like Sonic realizes how annoying this character will be in future games, so he just pieces out. As far as Sonic's other quest is concerned, this is where the game gets interesting. Sonic can time travel during stages and either go to a time before Eggman fucked everything up, or go to a time after Eggman fucked everything up. Others would call these periods past and future. By destroying robot generators in the past in each act, Sonic will create a good feature in each zone. Sonic can also collect the Time Stones, which is the stand-in for the Chaos Emeralds. Collecting all 7 automatically creates good futures in each zone, but does not allow Sonic to become Supersonic. Regardless of whether you destroy the robot generators or collect the Time Stones, the good ending shows Sonic freeing Little Planet from Eggman's control and the celestial body flies away. As far as the plot is concerned, there's more of it, but I feel like the damsel in distress arc with Amy Rose wasn't all that warranted. There was enough reason for Sonic to kick Eggman's teeth in after he tried to drain a planet of all its resources. The thing that made early Sonic games stand out from its competitors was that there was no princess to save at the end. The addition of a damsel kinda fucks with the science versus technology dynamic between Sonic and Eggman. Otherwise, it's a solid story that's not winning any awards, but I do like how the cutscenes give the game more room to play around with its narrative. Not only was the story expanded with the move to better hardware, but the presentation was as well. You can see for yourself, all of the zones are much larger with more pathways and secret areas defined. This, however, is a blessing and a curse. This game screams Aquatic Ruin Syndrome, with level layouts being so jumbled together that it's not only hard to tell where the way forward is, but also what is a pathway and what is not. I get that Sonic Team wanted to flex their muscles and show off the power of Sega's new toy, but to paraphrase Yahtzee Croshaw of Zero Punctuation, they sat down to design a zone, and then they never fucking stopped. The funny thing is, I was in love with the level design in the first zone, Palm Tree Panic, but once you head into Collision Chaos, the frustration starts to mount. Getting bounced around all the time and not feeling in control of your movements is not all that fun to me. Tidal Tempest and Quartz Quadrant are better and more grounded, but Wacky Workbench goes back to the shittiness of Collision Chaos. The floor in Wacky Workbench can launch Sonic into the ceiling, and more often than not, undoes any thoughtful platforming you've performed up to that point. I always despise returning to this level for repeat playthroughs, and I can officially say that it's my least favorite classic Sonic level by far. Stardust Speedway has similar problems, with the unnecessary bouncing and the unclear pathways, but at least you can get an exhilarating sense of speed going through the level. The final zone, Metallic Madness, is like if the Scrap Brain Zone level designer did a mountain of cocaine and remade the zone. Even though the level design is mostly shit, the boss fights are some of the most unique in the history of the classic series. All of them require creative strategies and utilize the zone's characteristics in some form or another. Uniqueness aside, the Collision Chaos boss is one of the worst in Sonic history, but most of them are very fun. The music is also amazing. You know, most games would consider themselves lucky if they only have one great soundtrack, but Sonic CD has 2 great soundtracks. The Japanese and Western versions both have different level soundtracks, and they both sound great. I personally prefer the Western one, but it is one hell of a toss-up. My favorite themes are probably Palm Tree Panic, Tidal Tempest, and Stardust Speedway. In the modern version of this game, you can switch from the Japanese to the Western soundtrack at your leisure, giving players the best of both worlds. Contrary to the presentation, core gameplay wasn't changed all that much. It's still the same sort of speedy platforming that the series is used to, but there were a few added wrinkles. In addition to the returning spin dash, there's also a move called the Super Peel Out. The Super Peel Out is basically an inverted spin dash, requiring the player to hold up on the stick and hit the jump button. Personally, I think it's worse than the spin dash because it doesn't protect you from enemies like the original spin dash. The other major added wrinkle to gameplay is time travel. I mentioned it before, and I think it does well to add some more depth to gameplay. The way it works is that Sonic can pass by signposts that either read past or future. If he hits a certain speed, he can travel to either time period depending on the signpost. When in the past, Sonic can destroy robot generators and get rid of all of the enemies in an act in one fell swoop. Plus, by creating a good future after destroying the robot generators, you can fight Eggman in the good future and get the good ending. While I find this mechanic enjoyable, it's not without its flaws. First of all, traveling to the future from the present is pointless. There is nothing you can accomplish there, and I feel like it's only an option to limit opportunities to travel to the past. Also, some of the level design isn't conducive to going fast in one continuous direction. There are a few points where it seems that players were supposed to time travel here, but that way it doesn't feel that organic to do so. Also, once in the past, finding the robot generators is no easy task, especially when you have to deal with terrible level design like in Wacky Workbench. But thankfully, there is another option for players who want the good ending. Special stages make a return in this title, and they are accessed in the same way as in Sonic 1. As long as you have 50 rings, you can access special stages at the end of the first 2 acts of each zone. These are my favorite special stages so far, but that's kind of like me talking about what my favorite kind of fish is. I really don't like fish, so this is basically like the lesser of 3 evils. These stages are fun, don't get me wrong, but I wish that Sonic Team wouldn't be so gimmicky with them. I'd rather just do a platforming challenge or a race to get the Chaos Emeralds. The goal here is to destroy UFOs within a time limit. Touching the water automatically chops off 10 seconds from your limit, and there is no way to immediately try again if you fail. These special stages scream poor depth perception, and while it's better than the maze or the half pipe, these special stages aren't all that fun. Thankfully, players can time travel if they want a more organic way to get the best ending. As far as extra content is concerned, there is a bit more content that you won't get with the Sega CD original. After beating the game once, you can play as Tails, who can fly like in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Also, there's a time attack mode that will unlock a sound test and movie gallery after getting below 25 minutes total. My final thoughts on Sonic CD are pretty indicative about many games in the sense that there were parts that I loved and parts that I surely hated. Even still, I enjoyed that Sonic CD gave players options when it came to getting the best ending and had some very creative boss fights to go along with its level design. I would recommend Sonic CD only for the type of Sonic fan that wants a new take on the classic series, or someone that is just curious. Sonic CD is pretty much a roller coaster of game quality. Some of these zones are right up there with the best in the series, but other zones can really drag down the experience. Next time I'll be taking a look at Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The Sonic game is so big that it had to be split into 2 cartridges. Thank you for watching this episode of Castar Reviews. Subscribe for more content from me and stay safe out there. See you next time for Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Time is now, we get high, find the power deep inside.